The ultimatum was a Tuesday morning when the sky cracked open and humanity's peaceful existence shattered like glass. Elena Vasquez was hauling mining equipment to the Luna stations when every communication device in the solar system screamed to life simultaneously. The cargo hauler's ancient radio crackled with static before a voice emerged, cold and mechanical, speaking in perfect English. Inhabitants of the third planet, we are the Vorthary Empire. You have been selected for integration into our domain. Elena's hands tightened on the controls as she watched her scanner light up with impossible readings. Ships were materializing at the edge of the solar system, massive constructs that dwarfed Earth's largest space stations. The voice continued, relentless and emotionless. You have 72 Earth hours to surrender completely. Disarm your pathetic military. Prepare your population for relocation and labor assignment. Your planet's resources will be harvested for the Empire's use. Resistance will result in total extermination. The transmission cut to silence, leaving Elena floating in the void between Earth and Luna, staring at her scanner in disbelief. 47. Red contacts were moving inward from the outer system, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Back on Earth, emergency broadcasts flooded every network. President Morrison appeared on screens worldwide, his face ashen as he tried to project calm authority. Citizens of Earth, we are facing an unprecedented situation. Our space monitoring stations have confirmed the presence of extraterrestrial vessels in our system. We are convening emergency sessions with all world leaders to determine our response. But Elena knew there was no response. She had spent 12 years in the Earth Space Defense Force before her court-martial and discharge. She knew exactly how outgunned humanity was. Earth's entire military consisted of patrol ships designed for asteroid mining disputes and orbital security. Against whatever was coming from the outer system, they might as well throw rocks. Director Sarah Chun stood in the Crisis Command Center beneath Geneva, watching as her staff tried to make sense of the impossible. 47 ships, each broadcasting. Energy signatures that made nuclear reactors look like candles. Their technology was centuries beyond anything Earth possessed. Ma'am, we're detecting massive electromagnetic disturbances throughout the outer system, reported Lieutenant Kim, his voice shaking. These aren't just ships. They're mobile cities. The largest one is over 15 kilometers long. Chun closed her eyes. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was a nightmare. How long until they reach Earth orbit? At current velocity, approximately 60 hours. That left 12 hours to attempt. The impossible. Chun activated the Global Defense Network, sending coded messages to every military installation on and off-world. It wouldn't be enough. It couldn't be enough. But they had to try. Elena was preparing to dock at Luna City when her personal communicator chirped with an unusual pattern. 3 short, 2 long, 3 short. SOS in Old Morse code. But the signal wasn't coming from any registered Earth frequency. It was coming from deep space, from the direction of the Alpha Centauri system. She isolated the signal and ran it through her ship's computer. The encryption was unlike anything in current use, but familiar somehow. It used patterns and algorithms from old Earth colonial exploration protocols, systems that hadn't been used in over 2 centuries. Her great-great-grandfather, Marcus Torres, had been captain of the colony ship Esperanza, launched toward Alpha Centauri in 2157 with 50,000 colonists. The ship had vanished during the journey, along with 7 other colony vessels sent to different star systems. Humanity had mourned them as lost, victims of the vast emptiness between stars. The message decoded slowly, letter by letter. Elena Torres Vasquez, descendant of Captain Marcus Torres. Message authenticated by genetic markers in your pilot registration. We have been watching. We have been preparing. Earth will not stand alone. The lost children of Terra are coming home. Elena's hands trembled as she read the message again. Impossible. The colony ships had been gone for over 200 years. Even if they had survived, reached their destinations, how could they possibly help against the Vorthri Empire? A second message arrived, this one containing star charts and tactical data about the alien fleet. Information that Earth's most advanced sensors couldn't have gathered. The data showed weak points in the Vorthri ships, energy patterns that suggested specific vulnerabilities. Someone had been studying these aliens for a long time. On Earth, panic was spreading despite government attempts to maintain order. Major cities saw mass evacuations as people fled to rural areas, as if distance could protect them from orbital bombardment. Religious groups proclaimed the end times, while scientists desperately tried to analyze the little data they had about the VORT. The aliens themselves remained silent after their initial ultimatum. Their ships continued their steady approach, making no attempt to communicate further. They had delivered their terms. Now they waited for surrender or prepared for extermination. Elena changed course, burning hard toward Earth. She had to reach. The Defense Command Center had to share what she had learned. The colony ships were out there somewhere, and they claimed to have the power to help. It sounded impossible, but it was the only hope humanity had as their ship screened through Earth's atmosphere. Elena thought about the genetic markers mentioned in the message. Her great-great-grandfather's DNA still carried in her cells after 2 centuries. The colonists hadn't just survived, they had remembered. They had kept track of their bloodlines, their connections to the homeworld they had left behind. Landing. At the Geneva spaceport, Elena pushed through crowds of refugees and emergency personnel. The Defense Command Center was in chaos, with officers shouting contradictory orders and civilians demanding answers no one could provide. She forced her way to Director Chon's office, waving her old space defense credentials. I have information about the Vorthri, Elena announced as she burst through the door. Chon looked up from a tactical display showing Earth's pitifully small defensive fleet. Unless you have a secret weapon hidden somewhere, I don't want to hear it. Chon replied bitterly. Elena placed her datapad on the desk and activated the decoded messages. The colony ships from the 22nd century. They survived. They're out there, and they're coming to help. Chun stared at the data for long moments, then looked up at Elena with desperate hope in her eyes. Even if this is real, how could colonial ships from 2 centuries ago possibly stand against this? She gestured at the display, showing the massive Vorthri fleet. I don't know, Elena admitted, but they've been out there for 200 years. In hostile space with no support from Earth. Whatever they've become, they've survived things we can't imagine. 68 hours after the ultimatum, as the Vorthri fleet entered the outer edges of Earth's solar system, space itself began to shimmer. Energy readings spiked across the spectrum as something vast and invisible moved through the void. The alien ships suddenly slowed, their sensors detecting anomalies they couldn't explain. Asterisk. Commander Thane of the Vorthri 7th Fleet studied the readings with growing confusion. His ship's advanced sensors showed distortions in space-time, but no vessels. The primitive humans couldn't possibly possess stealth technology advanced enough to fool Vorthri instruments. Commander, we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system, reported his tactical officer. It's almost as if there are hundreds of ships out there, but we can't see them. Thane's reptilian features twisted into a sneer. Impossible. These humans barely possess faster-than-light communication. Continue the approach. Whatever tricks they're playing, they cannot hide from the Empire's might. But deep in space, hidden by technology born from 2 centuries of desperate innovation, Fleet Admiral Kozlov watched the Vorthree advance through sensors that could peer through the quantum foam itself. His great-great-grandfather had been a simple engineer on the Esperanza. Now Kozlov commanded a fleet that would have been impossible to imagine when humanity still huddled around a single star. The lost colonists had found harsh worlds and hostile space. They had faced alien raiders, stellar phenomena that could destroy civilizations, and the endless isolation of deep space. It had forged them into something new, something harder than the humanity they had left behind. Signal from the homeworld. Received and confirmed, reported his communications officer. Elena Torres Vasquez has reached the defense center. She carries the genetic markers. Kozlov nodded. The bloodlines had been tracked, recorded, remembered across the generations. When the time came to return home, they would know their own people. Begin. Phase 1, he ordered. Show the Empire what happens when they threaten the cradle of mankind. As the Vorthree fleet crossed into Earth's outer defensive perimeter, space began to come alive around them. What had seemed like empty void suddenly swarmed with ships that materialized from nothing, their hulls scarred by centuries of use, but gleaming with weapons that had never existed in Earth's history. The colony ships had returned, and they brought with them the fire of humanity refined by centuries of survival against impossible odds. Asterisk, when Ghosts returned home commander, Thane had conquered 17 worlds for the Vorthree Empire. He had seen species beg, fight, and die in their final moments. None had ever surprised him like this. One moment his sensors showed empty space around Earth. The next, hundreds of ships materialized, as if stepping out of another dimension. Impossible. He hissed, his reptilian tongue flicking across sharp teeth. These readings must be false. Humans are a primitive species. His tactical officer's voice cracked with fear. Sir, energy signatures are off the scale. These aren't the ships we cataloged from their homeworld. This technology is beyond our current understanding. The lead human vessel opened a communication channel, and a weathered face appeared on Thane's screen. The man looked human, but there was something different about him. His eyes held depths that spoke of seeing things no earthbound human could. Imagine, I am Fleet Admiral Dmitry Kozlov, commanding the free human colonial fleet. You have threatened our homeworld. That was your first mistake. His voice carried an accent unlike any Earth dialect. Your second mistake was believing we would let you live to regret it. Thane recovered his composure. The Empire had faced rebellious colonies before. You cannot be serious. My fleet carries the combined might of 47 worlds. Your pathetic colonial ships cannot. The transmission cut off as Kozlov's flagship fired. But it wasn't a weapon the Empire recognized. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, space itself seemed to tear open, creating a wound in reality that swallowed one of the Vorthree destroyers whole. A massive ship simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased. Quantum tunneling weapons, breathed Thane's science officer. They're manipulating space-time directly. The theoretical energy requirements alone should be impossible. Kozlov's voice returned, calm and implacable. 200 years ago, you would have been right. But you've never faced humans who've spent centuries with their backs against the wall. We learned to make the impossible routine. On Earth, Elena watched the battle unfold from the command center. The colonial ships moved like nothing she had ever seen, phasing in and out of visible space, striking from angles that defied three-dimensional thinking. Each vessel was scarred and patched, clearly ancient, but they fought with a precision that made Earth's best pilots look like children. How is this possible? Director Chun whispered, staring at tactical displays that showed Vorthree ships being systematically dismantled. Elena was studying the colonial ship designs, recognizing elements from the original colony vessels, but seeing modifications that boggled the mind. They've had 2 centuries in deep space. she said slowly. No support from Earth, no safe harbors. They've had to innovate or die. A new voice joined the communication channel, and Alana's breath caught. The face on the screen was younger, but the features were unmistakably familiar. She was looking at her own great-great-grandfather, or rather, his digitized consciousness, preserved in the colonial fleet systems. "Hello, Elena," Captain Narcus Torres said, his image flickering slightly. "I've been watching over our family, lying for generations, waiting for this day. The Torres bloodline has remained strong." Elena found her voice. How are you still alive?" "I'm not, exactly," Marcus replied with a sad smile. "But my memories, my knowledge, my love for our family and our species lives on in the fleet's neural networks. Death couldn't stop me from protecting my descendants. The battle in space was turning into a rout. The Vorthari, for all their technological might, had never faced enemies who thought like the colonists. 200 years of desperate survival had taught the humans to fight dirty, to use physics itself as a weapon, to turn their enemies' strength against them. Fleet Admiral Kozlov coordinated the assault with calm precision. His ships used gravitational lensing to bend their weapons around Vorthari shields. They deployed nanic clouds that ate through alien hulls like acid through paper. Most terrifyingly, they used quantum entanglement to make their ships exist in multiple positions simultaneously, making it impossible to target them effectively. "Status report," Kozlov requested. 17 enemy vessels destroyed, 12 disabled, the rest are attempting to retreat. His tactical officer reported. "Our losses: 0 casualties, minor damage to 3 vessels." Commander Thane's flagship was listing badly, its engines dead, life support failing. He had never experienced defeat like this. The Empire's supposedly invincible technology had been rendered useless by humans who shouldn't have been able to threaten a single Vorthari scout ship. A boarding pod locked onto his hull, and Thane prepared for the end. But instead of death, he found himself facing a human woman in colonial military uniform. She was tall, scarred, with the hard look of someone who had seen too much war. "I'm Captain Sarah Morrison, descendant of Earth President Morrison," she said, her weapon trained. "On him. You're going to send a message to your empire." Thane straightened with what dignity he had left. "The Empire does not negotiate with primitives." "You will," Morrison replied coldly, "because you're going to tell them exactly what happened here. How 47 of your best warships were destroyed by primitive humans. How your mighty empire was humbled by people you considered beneath notice." She activated a recording device. "You're going to explain to your superiors that humanity doesn't just live on Earth anymore. We're spread across the galaxy, and we've learned to survive in places that would kill your soldiers in minutes. We've faced things your empire can't imagine, and we've grown strong." Back on Earth, the celebration was muted by awe. Elena stood with Director Chun and the other leaders, watching as the colonial fleet moved into protective formation around their homeworld. The ships were magnificent and terrible, bearing the scars of countless battles fought in the dark between stars. Admiral Kozlov's image appeared on the main screen, and Elena could see the weight of centuries on his shoulders. "Earth leadership," he said formally. "The colonial fleet returns home after 200 years. We bring with us technologies and knowledge gained through hardship. But more importantly, we bring our loyalty to the cradle of mankind." President Morrison stepped forward, tears streaming down his face. "Welcome home," he said simply. "Welcome home." Elena felt her ancestors' presence through the neural link as Captain Torres spoke. "The family grows strong," he said. "Scattered across the stars, but united in purpose. The Vorthari will spread word of this defeat, and others will come. But they will find us ready." "What happens now?" Elena asked. Kozlov smiled, and for a moment the weight of command lifted from his features. Now we rebuild. Earth and the colonies, working together. The galaxy is a dangerous place, but humanity has learned to make danger our ally. As the Vortherese survivors limped away from Earth's system, carrying news of their impossible defeat, humanity began to understand its true place in the universe. They were not the helpless primitives the Empire had expected. They were the children of explorers who had sailed into the unknown and returned transformed. The colony ships that had been launched in hope centuries ago had found their purpose. They had become humanity's shield, forged in the fires of deep space, tempered by impossible challenges. Earth would never stand alone again.